All right, good evening, everybody. I'm Joseph Boyle from the Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee, and I'd like to welcome you to the Solidarity Lowell 2021 Endorsed Candidates Forum. Solidarity Lowell is a volunteer-based group of community members of the greater Lowell area, working towards social justice by defending the human rights, dignity, and equality of all persons against hate and discrimination. Solidarity Lowell is a chapter of Progressive Massachusetts. We have specialized committees for topics such as our elections committee, which helped organize this endorsement process. We offer workshops such as Unpacking Whiteness, which will have a new session starting in the spring. We welcome new members. Our general meetings are typically the fourth Sunday of every month. You can find Solidarity Lowell on Facebook or on Slack. Tonight's event is a showcase for the City Council and school committee candidates that Solidarity Lowell voted to endorse. Each of these candidates submitted a response to our survey, and that information was provided to our membership, who then voted on the endorsements. For the City Council, our endorsed candidates are Vesna Nuon At Large, Corey Robinson in District 2, Tooch in District 3, Wayne Jenness in District 4, and Justin Ford in District 6. We will be meeting them next. For the second half of our evening, our endorsed school committee candidates are Jackie Doherty At Large, Stacey Thompson in District 1, Hilary Clark in District 2, and Susie Chhoun in District 3. We hope this showcase will give you the opportunity to know more about them and why they deserve your vote. Moderating tonight's event, I am pleased to introduce a good friend of ours, Yunju Choi of the Coalition for a Better Acre. Yunju?
Thank you, Joe. And I would like to also thank Solidarity Lowell for inviting me to moderate this event tonight. And congratulations to all the candidates who's been endorsed by Solidarity Lowell. My name is Yunju Choi, and I'm the CEO of Coalition for a Better Acre. I just want to mention that I am here as a moderator, and by me moderating does not mean that I am endorsing all of you because CBA is a nonpartisan organization and we cannot endorse candidates. So I just want to mention that before we start. So today we have 8 candidates who will be joining us, and we will start with the school council candidates in order by district number, followed by at-large seat candidate. Each candidate will have 10 minutes. We will start by asking each candidate to introduce themselves and tell us why they're running and what their priorities are. And we'll be asking them some questions after they do the introduction. And if you have any questions you would like to ask the candidates, please feel free to type them in the chat. I will try to incorporate your questions as much as I can during allotted 10 minutes. If your questions were not answered, please feel free to contact any of these candidates. One of the Solidarity Lowell member will put the candidate contact information on the chat. So, okay, let's start with the City Council candidate for District 2, Corey Robinson. Welcome, Corey.
Hello, everybody.
So before you introduce yourself, I thought maybe we can start having a little bit of fun, and I thought maybe I can ask you a quick icebreaker question. So if a genie gave you a one wish, what would you ask for?
One wish. I'd have to say an endless supply of money to correct our city's issues.
Good answer. So thank you for that. And this is not any hard questions. Everyone will have different questions, but I thought it'd be a nice way to break ice. So Corey, can you tell us why you're running?
Sure. My name's Corey Robinson. Short and plain, what allowed me to run and really got me motivated to run was the change to district format. A candidate such as myself probably wouldn't have stood a chance in that large old election system that was in place for a long time. Now, with this change to district, it really allows individuals to go out, get to meet their neighbors and get to know and understand the community and neighborhood, and the issues that are important, not only in the district, but citywide, which through talking to other candidates, they're pretty much echoed for the most part. And it created a whole different dynamic that I like, the whole intimate aspect of getting to know the people that I'm working to try to represent.
So thank you for that. So on the survey that you filled out for Solidarity Lowell, that you talked a little bit about LRTA needing to expand and it needs to improve. So could you talk a little bit about maybe a little more concrete, steps that they may be able to take to reach this goal?
Sure.
Oh, she froze on me.
Oh, everyone there? Okay, so I mean, I've actually reached out to the LRTA and had a conversation, because one thing that I was trying to see if down the line we could possibly implement would be a service using existing routes that would allow some of the youth, especially from Centerville, to access the Boys Club and be provided transportation back and forth, just because we're kind of one of the furthest districts away, and we don't have any kind of rec or community center over here. And there is a real need for organized constructive activity. We do have some, and so upon speaking with the LRTA, I see both sides of it. The buses aren't at capacity, and there is a cost associated with operating more routes, more fuel, drivers, etc. Longer hours, of course, again, a cost associated with it. But I think if it's a partnership with the city, and we can allocate some kind of resources or funds through different ways, maybe it's something that we really get behind between the nonprofit sector, the public sector, private sector, and really push and advertise and market to our residents that we're looking to try to provide more transportation from every corner of the city. So that way it'll allow people to get a little bit more mobile. And that way it gives access to our community to everything that Lowell has to offer. But again, I think it's going to be a partnership that has to happen, because there are costs associated with extended routes or hours of operation.
So, on your survey again, you had indicated a few of your priorities, and one of that being improving neighborhood services. So could you talk a little bit about what kind of steps needs to be taken to improve the neighborhood services?
Sure. Any specific aspect of neighborhood services, or you want me to talk general?
So that was one of your services, but I guess one of the things that I think about is, it's an election season right now, and if people see things that are wrong, people have been calling a lot of the candidates, and you have actually been doing a great job, doing the neighborhood service work. But what do you think city can do so that there are better communications between people, and people don't have to utilize city councilors or people that are running? So what can they do for to get more input, better input from the people, and repair or fix things that are needed?
I think our answer in the future is going to be implementing technology. I've been poking around to see how we can improve on a lot of these things that should be routine. I kind of like the direction that Comcast, for example, has gone with their service techs, and that's where Comcast techs carry a handheld device that it's a centralized, basically, dispatch. As the calls and the issues get reported, it's dispatched out to these techs, which would similar to the different departments that provide neighborhood services in the city. And then that way there's tangible data that can show what the response times are, how long they're actually at the job location. If there's any breakdowns or problems along the way, it can be real-time reported, so they can keep residents in tune and in touch every step of the way. And then in addition to it, I think our mid-management we're going to have to really hold them accountable with some of the responsibilities they're tasked with. And I think that's going to be something that's going to take some work to get to. But there's no reason that our residents shouldn't be able to anticipate services being provided routinely. And so something as simple as you bring in family members to a playground and anywhere in the city, and you show up and the grass is high, it's dirty, it hasn't been picked up on a Monday morning. You should be able to look and see, oh, okay, this is scheduled weekly to be done on Tuesday. That's why it's not done yet. And if it isn't done on that Tuesday, then there should be that same set of data, that same technology that would allow the resident to report that and ask the question. And again, it's all real time. I mean, we really need to get better with the communicational aspects of it, I think. But then on the city side of services, it has to come down to accountability and responsibility, assignments, making sure that all of these areas, regardless of what neighborhood service you're discussing, are routinely covered. There shouldn't be any lapses. If you have 440 green metal barrels that are supposed to be picked up, the responsibility of the city of Lowell, then 440 barrels should be scheduled within a 5 or 7 day period. And our residents should be notified as to when that schedule is scheduled to take place.
So we probably have about 1 more minute to go. It's a very quick, 10 minutes. But before you go, do you have anything that you want to share with the audiences that are here today to make sure that they vote for you on November 2nd? Sure,
thank you. First, I just want to say thank you to everyone involved. Thank you to Solidarity Lowell. Thank you, you and Joe, for all you do in the community. My thing is, I'm not a traditional candidate in the sense that I'm running to do things, to make changes, to improve on existing programs we have, expand on existing programs we have, and think outside the box to get this done. But more common, we need to lean on each other's strengths, I think, across the city to get a lot of these problems corrected. And with my background, labor, work in DPW, blue collar guy, been in the community, not going any plans to anything higher than this is not a stepping stone for me. This is something that I genuinely care about. I love my city. I've been involved in neighborhood services for 17 years, providing them hands on the boots on the ground. And so any support or any vote that someone would consider casting for me, I really say I will work with you and for you and be as transparent as possible, and I'm fully accessible. And thank you. I just hope that the opportunity for change is here, and I really hope our residents get engaged and vote and usher this change in, because take a look around. Our city can do so much better than where we are, and I think with a change in leadership, we'll get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. So our next candidate is from District 4, Wayne Jenness. So welcome, Wayne. And your icebreaker question that I have for you is, if you were a cartoon character, who would you be and why?
Oh boy, cartoon character. First, hi, Anju, while I think of this. Oh man. I was not prepared for this one. I'm sorry. Let's go Fred Flintstone. I just want to go to work every day and get some stuff done and come home to my family. So we'll go Fred.
That's a very good answer. Thank you. And welcome again, Wayne. So would you like to do a quick introduction and tell us why you're running?
Absolutely. So hi, my name is Wayne Jenness. Before I dive into it, I just want to say, Corey, I love your Bridge Street Bridge background. That's pretty great. So thanks for using that. First time I've seen that one. So I live downtown with my wife, Carrie, my dog, Lucy, and our 3 cats. We live in a condo on Market Street. We've been here since 2015. I've lived downtown since 2009. In that time, since I've lived downtown, there really hasn't been a representative from the downtown on the city council. So like Corey, I was excited when district-based representation became a thing. And I was really excited to find out who was going to run for the downtown and who I would get to support in this. And as time went on, I talked to people, and nobody was interested in running. And I started thinking, I know a lot of people, and I care about this city. I love this city. I love living here. Maybe it's time for me to step up. So I had lots more conversations that were then focused on, hey, what do you think about me running? And I got a lot of positive feedback from a lot of folks close to me. And so I decided to jump in the race to really be a District 4 representative for the whole district, not just downtown, but back central, Pawtucketville, the little slice of the acre that's in our district, and that little slice of Centerville. And I've really enjoyed since I made the decision to get in. I've really enjoyed just getting out and meeting more neighbors and hearing more about what people want to see from the city and what things they'd like to see worked on over the next 2 years. And I'm really excited to jump in and get my hands dirty and see what kind of positive change we can bring to the city. So that's why I'm in the race, just to really help out my neighbors and be a point of contact for everyone, so they feel like they have someone to talk to on city council. That was something that I heard from a lot of people, is they just felt like disconnected from it, not understanding what the city council does, who they are, how they got there, and what the goals are. So I'm trying to change that a little bit for District 4, and hope that I can be that go-to person for people, and I can really get plugged into all the neighborhood groups like I have been with downtown since I lived here, and really lean in and try to make people's lives better throughout the city. So that's why I'm running.
Well, thank you. And I like to thank all the candidates for running. I know it's not easy, and I know you're giving up a lot of your, personal, time to run, and you're all working very hard. So best of wishes to all of you. So question for you, Wayne, is that you had told Solidarity Lowell that your priorities include aiding economic development and pandemic recovery with focus on small businesses. So can you give some first steps? How would you go? How you would go about this?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So throughout this pandemic, we've seen our economic development team here in the city of Lowell worked very, very closely with our small businesses across the city. And I think they've done a really good job. I don't think that Lowell has lost as many businesses to the pandemic as many surrounding communities and other gateway cities across the Commonwealth have. Christine McCall and her economic development team have really dug in and been there for the businesses. And I just want to make sure that that level of commitment and work continues. I want to make sure that the next council can empower the city to really, make that the model going forward, not just with our existing businesses, but as we bring new businesses in, because I think that really having that hand-in-hand communication has really allowed the businesses to survive. And now we've just got to adopt that model to really bring those businesses to thriving, because really, that's what makes a lot of our neighborhoods what they are. I live downtown. I love being able to walk out my door and go get dinner, go see a show, go watch a hockey game, all these different things that are reliant on small businesses to either make them happen or help them happen. And so I want to make sure that the city continues to help the small businesses do what they do to make the city everything that it can be.
So the other next question that I have for you is since you talked about pandemic recovery ARPA funds, and I know there's a position open to hire someone to manage that. So can you, do you have any ideas, or do you have any suggestions, how city could manage ARPA funds, and what would you like to see city focus on?
Sure. So thanks for this question. And I wish I had my notepad. I left a notepad in the car where I have a whole page of notes to talk about this stuff from my debate last week on the radio. But I'll go with what's still in my head. Basically, I think the best way to approach this is kind of a three-tiered approach. So tier one is stabilization. We've got to use the ARPA funds for what we can use them for to make up for shortfalls we've had in the past. Particularly, I'm particularly thinking about our parking enterprise fund. all the operations of the parking department are based off of that one fund. Even, basic garage maintenance, and our garages downtown, all of them can use help in different ways. And so I think we need to use some of the funds to stabilize the revenue that we've lost as a city from this pandemic. And then the next step is we really need to, be strategic about what we're doing here. We need to look for things that we can do that'll be long-term investments. I don't want to see us, spend all this money and then in 3 years we look back and we're like, we could have done that better. I think it's really important to take a breath and really look at how we can spend this money in a smart way, whether that's investing in physical infrastructure that's going to be with us for a while, or developing programs in such a way that they either become self-sufficient or possibly funded in such a way that they get their own income. What I'm thinking is there's a couple different ways we can go with this. One would be a land trust that could be created. You create a land trust and you use the ARPA funds to seed that. The city can buy land and have it in this trust, and then use that land to facilitate affordable housing development. And the costs at the end of the day will be much lower than they would be if we just bought and then sold the land off to a developer or whatever. We just put the land in the trust and then keep moving forward. Or if we want to say create a social program. One idea I had was to partner with the Lowell Community Health Center to purchase some kind of van or RV, some kind of vehicle that could be outfitted as almost a mobile exam room. So if you have this van and you can staff it with a nurse practitioner, a social worker, and a case manager, and then you could take this van around the city and you could, really get into the various homeless camps around the city, and really engage with this population and have that be the start of helping them solve whatever issues they have. Getting that up and running probably wouldn't be that expensive. So your year one funds you could take directly from ARPA, buy the van, hire your staff, buy all the equipment you need, hit the ground running. Then if you take, say, another $2.5 million of ARPA funds and you invest that in a trust, if you get 6% return, which is fairly easy to do, I don't want to say easy, but it's, money managers can do this. So you want to plan for anywhere from 2 to 10% return. So if you get 6% off their $2.5 million, you get $150,000 every year to fund this program in perpetuity. If you're partnered with the community health center and they can kick in another $150,000 a year, which they have room in their budget, they have a surplus right now, so they could do that. And then you have $300,000 to fund this program. Now you can really lean into it and run this program for 3, 4, 5 years. Figure out what works, what doesn't. Maybe you need to step back and reinvent. And even if you have to do that, you still have the original $2.5 million of that ARPA funding sitting in a trust that you can now use for something else. Maybe you develop another program off that same kind of income budget, or maybe you spend the $2.5 million on something physical, but you haven't just spent everything and now it's gone, right? So I think it's important to be strategic about how we allocate this money. And then the last bit of this is I want to make sure it's a coordinated spend, right? Whatever we do in Lowell, I think needs to be complementary and multiplicative with what else is happening in the Merrimack Valley, right? I don't want to see Lowell do something all on its own, spend a bunch of money to build something that works or doesn't or whatever. But if we're working with our partners in the Merrimack Valley, and that's nonprofits, other communities, educational institutions, businesses, everybody that's in the valley, I think we really need to have this collaborative process that we don't duplicate efforts, so that we actually have the biggest impact we can possibly have with this money, because it's a one-time distribution of funds. And so I want to make sure we get as much bang for these bucks as possible.
All great ideas. So thank you, Wayne. And the time has already, gone for you. So you
Sorry.
have, 30 seconds of last, minute, communication you want to have with this group.
Okay, thank you. First, thank you to everybody at Solidarity Lowell for putting this on, for putting the survey out there, and for the endorsement. It means a lot to me to know that the progressive folks in this city really put your trust in me, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you all so much for that. As we get down to the last 10 or so days of this campaign, we're going to have several events. We're going to be out holding signs. We're going to try to do a big canvas next weekend. So if anybody's available to help out on that, please feel free to send me an email or text me, and we'll get you hooked up with my volunteer coordinator. I'll make that happen. But otherwise, I would humbly ask for your votes if you're in District 4. If you're not in District 4 and you know people who are in District 4, please let them know who I am and what I'm about. And if they have any questions, please ask them to contact me. I've really enjoyed getting to know everyone. So thank you all for your time, and I appreciate it, and I'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Wayne. So our next candidate is Tooch from District 5. So Tooch.
I have a little issue with the, bear with me with my internet usually very.
Do you need a few minutes? Should we?
Okay, now it's run.
Okay, you're good.
Can you hear me, Jinju?
I can hear you.
Okay.
So, all right. So welcome, Tooch. So I have an icebreaker question for you as well.
Sure.
So if you were in a room with President Biden, Dalai Lama, and Adam Sandler, who would you want to speak to first? And what would you like to talk about with them?
President Biden.
What would you like to talk about with them?
I would like to get 66 million unvaccinated and vaccinate them all. Right. That's probably a good topic to talk about with the president right now. So thank you. On a serious note, we'd like to welcome you again and thank you for being here today. So would you like to do a quick introduction about who you are and why you're running? Sure. Again, Tooch fan, immigrant from Cambodia. I born in a bad year, 1975. My family passed away during the genocide, but through hard work and a little bit of luck, I earned a scholarship to come to this country. I did my undergrad in Middlesex, Trinity College, and my master's degree in law and diplomacy at Tufts University. I moved to Lowell in 1996, owned a home in South Lowell for 12 years. My children play at Butler School playground. My family and I walked to get milk from Good Times, get groceries from Rose Market and Goham Street. South Lowell is my home, and I love my home and care my home dearly. So over 20 years, I work out there with the community, engage them to address voting issues, US Census counting, vaccination access, language access, and more. One of the plaintiffs, finally, I moved to Lowell to change voting system. Voters should know that I commit and follow through. So I'm running to connect South Lowell to City Hall, which is something that have not happened for several decades. With the voice of inclusion, diversity, we together can provide a quality of life to all. That's the reason I'm running. So thank you. Since you're district candidate for South Lowell, and some of us aren't, I'm embarrassed to say, but I actually did know South Lowell very well. And first time actually I've been to Corner Cafe was when I met with you maybe about a month ago or so. So can you, as a district candidate, can you talk a little bit about how you may be able to help promote some of the businesses in South Lowell? Certainly. Saulo, I'm also the part of the recovery task force, work with Christine McCall to talk about grants and technical support to a small business, to all the small business in the city, including Saulo. But Saulo is, we are, with the new drawing, very fortunate that we have business corridors on Goham Street and Woburn Street and Chelmsford Street. The Olympic restaurant and the Superpowers restaurant now is a part of Saulo. And I've been talking and introduced them to whether we can connect them to the grants and technical support so they can help with the marketing, digital marketing, so they can keep their door open and get more customers to Saulo. And also, beside those businesses, we in Woburn Street, like the corner cafe, they doing well, but also they need help with the business marketing to let them know. So to get the world note, not the world, the city of Lowell know that they exist, and then they because their food is delicious, and I want them to try as well, you know. So
thank you for that. And I know diversity, equity, and inclusion is an important, issue for you. Can you talk a little bit about, if you were elected as one of the city council, what do you think you can do to do more DEI work in the city of Lowell?
Thank you for saying that this is one of my top priorities. I think the first thing the city have been doing a little bit with the nonprofits, with DEI, also have just started doing, especially with the HR audit. So I will make sure that we'll work with the city manager office to implement the HR audits that we have, I believe in 19 to 20 recommendations. So make us a priority. So we will make sure to move forward all those recommendations. That's the first step. And then the second step, we reinforce that the high practice in City Hall, make sure that we're open and transparent to all the neighborhoods, all people, different experience in life, different, to have opportunity to apply for a job at a city, and so that's what we'll make sure that, and also the last but not least, encourage other members of communities in Saulo to partake in or participate in the commissions or different committees at the city. We don't have to be running the city council, but also can be participated or appoint positions to serve on different committees. So that maybe that's the first start as well.
Well, thank you. And so other than the election, there's also a question about whether we should be electing the mayor. Are you supportive of voters electing the mayor, or would you like to have the current system stay on? So this is a ceremonial mayor question.
Well, I really believe in the core of democracies, which is run by the people, participate by the people, and so yes, to answer your question, yes, we should select by the people. but also this is the task that that the new council will make decisions. But from my point of view, I think should be chosen by the people.
So if the voters are electing the mayor, would you be supportive of maybe changing form of a government into strong mayor system? Or would you still keep the city manager and a form of government, but just elect a ceremonial mayor through by the people?
I will willing to change to be a strong mayor systems similar to Boston, if I might clarify, right?
Yeah. So your time is almost up. So
Okay.
you have about 30 seconds to also tell us, give us your parting words. So.
Okay. Thank you. Well, again, thank you for host this event. Thank you for Solidarity Group that put a trust on me to endorse me. It's been the world to me and my team, campaign team, and I really appreciate it. I really got a privilege and honor for your endorsement. The reason I'm running, I want is very excited with the new law changing, and then but also in Saulo have never have a representation before, and then I live in Saulo, and my home been neglected for been ignored for a while. So I'm running to connect Saulo to City Hall. So my and if I got elected, I will promise you one of my core priority, which is listen to my residents and bring their voice and concern to City Hall, open City Hall to so I hope to earn your vote by that.
Thank you, Tooch, and best wishes to you. And our next candidate is from District 6. He is the youngest candidate that's running, and we're really excited to see young people participating in this work. So welcome, Justin. And
thank you.
I have a question for you. I think this is an easy one, actually. So if you won $50 million in lottery, what would be the very first thing that you would buy?
A house. That's an easy question. Yeah, housing is like one of my #1 issues. So yes, a house with the first thing I'd buy.
Good answer. You're a practical man. So thank you again. And would you like to share a little bit about yourself and why you're running?
Yes, my name is Justin Ford. I'm running for District 6 in the Lower Highlands. What got me into this race is I got out of the Army in January of this year after 3.5 years of active duty, and I saw the fact that the election system was changing in the city, and I was like, this is a perfect point to jump in the race and give young people a voice. I know that one of the things that I'm passionate about is climate change, and I'm the only candidate who is pushing for strong climate change in the city. I want to go 100% green renewable energy, 100% renewable green energy by 2024. This is not a hard task, but it does take a lot of will and it takes a lot of integrity. So when I go to office, that's one of my first things that I want to work on is climate change for the city. And some people think it's a global issue. It's really not. It's a local issue. You tackle it at the local level and it will transfer to the top. So we have to tackle this issue at the bottom level. Another reason why I got into this race is housing, like I just talked about before. Housing is very important. A lot of people nowadays, we see the rising cost of homes. We see the rising cost of renting. So like, where does it leave us? It doesn't leave us anywhere. So we need a candidate in the race who's willing to push for more affordable housing, whether it's renting or buying. It's very important for the city. It's very important for people. It builds a foundation. It gives you a sense of purpose owning something you own. In a home, you can transfer it on. So it's generational wealth. That's what we need to talk about, the importance of owning a home. And we need to connect city and constituents to the services of getting the affordable housing. Another thing is community policing. We need to be strong and take an aggressive stance and make sure that we are fighting on behalf of the constituents. In our city, it may not be as bad as other cities when it comes to police interactions, but we know that police interactions in the country is bad overall. And as a person in the military myself, I have no animosity or anything towards police officers. And in fact, I have respect for them because I can understand the situation there. They put themselves in harm's way to protect the community. And that's something I did as a member of the military. So I understand that, but it has to be for the best interest of the people. That means we need, so when the city introduced body cameras, that's a good start. We need to go further, okay? So I'm talking about community policing, bringing the police to the communities. I'm talking about learning anti-bias training, learning anti-racism training, de-escalation training, and as well as the city is also moving towards bringing in mental health advocates on site as well. So those are good things we're moving in. We just need to be aggressive and move forward faster. So I'm 27 years old. I may be the youngest candidate, but I got the most passion here. So I'm ready to fight on behalf of people in my city that have felt that they have been ignored for too long. And that's why I'm in this race. I'm passionate about it. I'm happy and excited to give people a voice. Thanks.
So since we both mentioned, how young you are, let's actually put that, let's talk about you coming in as a young person, because of it, you may have less experience than, you do have less experience than, the incumbent that you're running against. So can you talk a little bit about, why this may be an asset for you being young?
Yeah, so first off, age doesn't say anything, right? So I want to say that age does not matter. Just because my age is 27 years old does not mean that my opponent doesn't know more than me or no less than me. We both have our faults, right? So, but with my age, it brings creative ideas, new ideas. When you bring someone new to the table, they should be able to bring new ideas. As a young person, that is exactly what we bring, new ideas, new vision. But also my background as a person in the military gives me a different way of thinking as well. I was a paralegal in the Army. I mean, you're looking at two different jobs. One, you're a paralegal, work legal functions. Next one is you're working as a soldier and the grit and the hard tasks. So I was able to put both those tasks together and work them out as my own. As a city councilor, you need someone who's flexible and can move around and do different things. As my job as a paralegal, I worked in risk management. I worked in research. So when you have a city councilor, you can do the research and risk management. Means when we have new developments and stuff like that, I'll be making sure I do the work so that we're not wasting taxpayers' money getting the job done. So my age is not any way going to hurt me. If anything, it helps me. So
that's why I said it was an asset. But we old people also have great ideas too.
You do.
And we can be innovative too. I have more ideas than anybody, like my staff wants to hear. But thank you for that. I do actually have a little more serious question.
Yeah.
I love all your ideas, and I also care a lot about environment. So it's just really great to see candidate who wants to focus on that their day one. You also want to do a lot of different kind of trainings, and all of that are really important things, but it all costs money, right? It's a little more expensive. So as a city councilor, who also has to manage city budget, how, where would you find the money, and how would you do this work with limited budget that we have in the city?
That's a good question. So first thing we'd have to do is take a look at the budget, make changes, but that's easy. Everybody can say that, right? So what we have to really focus on is what the needs of the city are going forward. We have to put the money into the things that help the city better. So when we're talking about policing, for instance, okay, so we go look at the budget and we can see that there is probably money we can cut from different areas of different types of training and put that money into new types of training that will actually work. So that's one way we can work. We're talking about climate change. We need to put money into climate change because our future is at risk. There's going to be no money if there's no planet. There ain't going to be no money if there's no trees. So we have to, so some of these things are as simple as they need to get done and we need to find the money. And that means some things are going to have to get cut. Yes, that is a fact. But our earth, our planet, our livelihood is the most important thing, because without it, we won't be here. So that has to be number one issue when we're talking about climate change. Has to be the top, has to be. So when you're looking at funds, it's going to be tough going into this new year, fiscal year, because of the funds that the pandemic has hurt us a lot. So we have to think about that. But when we're thinking about investing and going to the future, we need to have futuristic vision. So when we're talking about problems of today, we also have to think about the problems of tomorrow and work on those issues at the same time, because oftentimes we get boggled up in fixing the current issue without thinking about what happens next. And that has to be an important step we take in advance in, because if we can think about what happens next and work on that, then we're spending our money better.
So,
Thank you for that.
yeah, great point. And it's actually easier. It's actually cheaper to fix things now than, waiting 5-10 years, because it becomes so much larger and it could be a lot more costly. So
Yes.
you are absolutely right around that. So ARPA money that city has, $76 million. What are maybe 2-3 areas that you would like to see that money go to?
Like Wayne was saying, I think homelessness is a very important issue we need to tackle right off the bat. Only because we have to think about humanity in the city. We're looking at our city and we want our city to have great representation. We want our people to feel that they're important and they're valued. When we have people on the side of the corner of the highway, that's not feeling valued. I know the issue of being homelessness myself. So that's why I know we can tackle this issue. It's not just drugs. It's not just mental health. There's a large variety of issues that go into people becoming homeless. And we need to find out what that reason is. And we know some of the reasons, but we need to talk to those people on the street and find out what put them in that particular situation for them to be there. Because you can guess and assume, but you don't know until you ask them. So I think that's an important step we take, and is speaking to the people on the sides of the street first. And then, moving into, we need to start looking at transitional living for people on homelessness, who are homeless, and moving them from, a resident building into their own personal housing. We need to talk about climate change as well. We need to think about the impacts of climate change on our city, because it's happening today. We've seen the smokes in the wildfires from California this summer. We have rising oil prices. We have heat islands throughout the city, polluted waters, rivers overflowing. There's a large variety of issues going on with climate change right now that we don't even see, because we think climate change is, oh, the earth is heating up. Yeah, but then all the effects after that. And we need to understand that and work on those issues. And then third, like I said before, talking about the community policing. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So now your time is up. So do you have 30 seconds of last parting words?
What I'd like to say to people is, I hope you've learned enough about me that I can earn your vote on November 2nd. If there's any more questions or concerns you have about me, or you want to tell me issues in the city, please visit my website, justin.nationbuilder.com. I'll put it in the comments as well. And please let me know the issues in the city, and let me know how I can help out in any way. So my job is to be a voice, and that's what I like to do for this community. So please, November 2nd, vote for me. Justin Ford. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
So our next candidate, oops. Our next candidate is one of our current sitting city councilor, Vesna Nuon, who is running at large seat. So welcome, Vesna.
Thank you. Thank you,
and-
Solidarity. Thank you, Solidarity Lowell. Thank you, Youngshu. It has been my honor to serve on the city council for the past 3 terms. I want to return to the council. I have some specific reason. I can tell you one is to ensure that our high school is complete on time and on budget. I want to continue to work with the nonprofit to address the issue of health and housing concern. Some of the candidates spoke about homelessness. We can elaborate more on that if you like, Also, I want to return to promote public safety and trust between the police and the community. We need to seek and find new source of revenue and funding. And I can point to a couple of things that I've done on the council. CPA is one of them. The other is local taxes from recreational marijuana. Use that to fix our municipal building, open space, recreational space, and so on. Fourth will be to support not just the downtown, but also the neighborhood businesses. During the COVID, the city have done a very good job in terms of helping the downtown and some of the neighborhood businesses. We need to use some of those money that we got from ARPA to help them thrive. Downtown, I have planned for downtown. What we have done over the years is not working. We need to look at fix up the upper floor, giving the developer or the owner of those buildings incentive, finding grant fund, use that to fix the upper floor, because foot traffic really creating, customer for the storefront business. Right now, we can help them. They come in, couple of years, they move out because business didn't work well. The other reason I want to go back in is to make Lowell an equitable and inclusive city. And that's why I've been out there and asking voters, humbly ask them for one of their 3 votes, so that I may return to the council improving on those for all of us. And that's the reason I'm running.
Thank you, Vesna. I want to actually ask you an icebreaker question, even though you did your introduction. So your icebreaker question is, what superpower would you like to have and why?
Superpowers. Well, I wish I have more energies and, I have, able to, sprint from one home to one home so that I can canvas the neighborhood, not 1, but 3, 4 times, so that I can, basically compete with myself. I have a reason for that.
Well, thank you for that. So one of the questions that I have for you is on the answer that you, the survey that Solidarity Lowell has sent you. One of the question was about the communications between Lowell's city government and people of Lowell. And you mentioned that you've done a lot of advocacy work. Can you be a little more specific about how you can help, a better communication between this city government and the people?
Councilor only can suggest things to the administration. In this case, our employee is the manager. We have to look at in the past, we have seen that communication is not that great. We can communicate better to residents with information that, whatever happened in the city, communicate. There's various ways we can do, and some things that's only every way that we better communicate with the resident is cost money. It does not cost money because we have a lot of good partners in the city. We have all the nonprofit, community leaders, neighborhood leaders, neighborhood group, LTC. I would suggest that those are the network that we should utilize, and we have recently, but we still have a long way to do, or to go for that matter.
I mean, one of my frustration actually during COVID has been, city not producing communications out in other languages other than English. And I would love to see a next council, make some, changes so that city has a lot more capacity, for other languages. So when information is going out, especially if important information is going out, it's going out in other languages as well at the same time, especially around things that are a little more time sensitive. So, hopefully, hopefully we can see that happen.
Truly, Young Shu, in terms of communications, we should do a better job at not just one language, because we have population is as diverse. When we're talking about diversity, and then you embrace diversity, but then again you have not done what you say you would embrace, what you embrace about. So I talk about the past, about being invited to a party, right? And then you sit on the corner, right? And then soon enough you don't feel fit in. You don't stay long. The next time you invite me to that party again, and you're not going to see my face. But what we can do better is invite someone to the party and ask them to dance, right? Even ask them to dance on a song that I don't like, or I don't know how. I make a fool of myself. I'm not going to do that either. Or maybe I go back if someone convinced me. But the next time you do, play a music that I like. You see, that's what we talk about. That's what this city can be. And I'm very hopeful with the elections of this district candidate, like Corey Robinson, like Jenness, and so many others. I'm very hopeful that we can be that city, one that really truly embrace that. And information does not have to be small or large information. Do it in a multi-language so that residents know what's going on, even trash pickup schedule. We can do better.
And that's why those of us that are activists are always pushing for equity and inclusion as well as diversity, right? So it's not just a diversity part, but it is equity and inclusion. I have another question about electing the mayor. Would you like to see people, or would you like to see the current system stay?
I am open to discussion on that. I think the next council will have those discussion. The ballot went out to the resident, the voters, and the voter can decide, can talk about, but it's ultimately is the council. And we will have that honest discussion. And not only that, we do have that honest discussion, I put out already that we ought to have term limit for both at large and district. The number of term to be discussed by the council, district and at large, because we do not want to end up at the end, king and queen of the district or at large. We're talking about inviting more, encourage more civic participation, more voice, young voice like Justin and whatnot. And I mean, look, you cannot beat, if you run at large, you can't win. Well, now district is almost similar thing. If someone's been there for years and years and years, it's hard to break that. Yeah. So that discussion need to be had. And how many terms is up to the council, the district and the at large.
Yeah, great. It definitely needs some discussions, as much as like initially, oh, what a great idea to elect a mayor, but the lawsuit happened and, we're actually talking about district, counselors, and if this district counselors, would they be able to, get enough votes to become a mayor? So, so only people that qualify are like at-large candidates. So, so there isn't an equity in that either, right? And I've seen a lot of the councilors who becomes the mayor and they have become so much better city councilors. So there's definitely a benefit to that as well. As much as we all like, our votes to count and elect a mayor. So that's an interesting topic, and I really look forward to hearing about that at the in the future city council meetings. But your time is almost up, so could you you have 30 seconds to give us your last words.
Well, thank you, Youngshu. Thank you, Solidarity of Lowell, for the endorsement of all these very wonderful candidates. You can do, if you can step out beyond just, endorse us. We have 8 days to go to the election. most, if not all of us, need help with visibility, canvassing, half an hour, 20 minutes, we will be all very grateful. I'm speaking on behalf of my colleague or the city council and the school committee too. You know, visibility is eight days to go. So half an hour, 20 minutes, you know, be awesome. So I'm asking, again, I'm humbly asking for one of your vote on November 2nd, so I can return to the city council to improve on what we set out to do for all of us. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Vesna. So that concludes the 5 city council candidates Solidarity Lowell has endorsed. So our next portion is going to school committee candidates. And again, we are going to go in the order of the districts and with the at-large candidate at the end. And everyone has 10 minutes. So the first school committee candidate is Stacey Thompson, running at District 1. So hello, Stacey.
Hello. I was not expecting that. I thought we were going to go with that large first. I was like, whoa, wait. Hello, everyone.
We like to surprise you a little.
I see that.
So I have a icebreaker question for you. So
Okay.
if you can have lunch with anyone, live or dead, who would you have lunch with, and what would be on your menu?
Man, that's a rough question. Right now, I'd probably say my boyfriend because he's made a lot of sacrifices and to support me in this and doesn't live here. So I would love to be able to actually spend time with him. And we would have probably some type of fine dining steak situation because we tend to enjoy that. So that would probably be what we do.
Wow. Well, thank you. And Stacey, so could you introduce yourself and tell us why you're running?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much, Solidarity Lowell, for this opportunity, because I think it's so important that we have every opportunity to reach out to people and for them to get to know us. I decided to run actually without even really ever thinking that I'd be into anything political whatsoever. But I really looked at the why behind it. And for me, I am very, very focused on the kids. I think that we need to invest in our future. And I find, unfortunately, a lot of the investment that is made is really on behalf of other things. And I think there are other things that are important. I think, you know, investing in small business is really important. But who's going to run those small businesses? Who's going to create those small businesses in the future? So I think that it's really important. As a Black female, there has been never a woman of color on the school committee. I've never been a Black person, to my knowledge, on the school committee. So it would be kind of a double opportunity. I find that one of the things that's so important is looking at the school system as a whole and recognizing how much diversity is there, but not how much equity is there. And for me, that's very important. So when I created my 3 E's, which are equity, empowerment, and educational excellence, I did so really thinking about how important it was to take what people talk about, because people talk a lot, but to take that into action. And so in doing so, I really kind of was concrete about some of the ideas that I had in each section.
So thank you. So in the past couple of years, well, actually for the last many years, school building's been struggling.
Yes.
Where there has been so many infrastructure issues. And so as a school committee member, what do you think you can do? I know this is not something that school committee can do on your own, but how do you think you can work with the school, city councilors to, come up with plans for these buildings?
I think the first thing is to not be afraid of, accountability. I feel like sometimes people are, and I'm not. I have no problem with looking at, what the promises were or what the suggestions were, and saying, okay, that's great that we talked about that, but what's the actuality of it? I know that, there was kind of a master plan, if you would, that was created years ago. And they kind of looked at, okay, how are we going to maintain these buildings and what are we going to do? And unfortunately, a lot of that has fallen by the wayside. And then there's, perfect example, I was talking to one principal and won't mention which one. I'll just leave that out of that. But when in talking to this principal, was mentioning something that was so, to me, I can see as so maddening. They had to have their HVAC fixed and had someone come and fix it. And so the city fixed the actual unit that was on top of the building. And then they had a contractor come and fix the internal portion. They didn't meet in the middle. So what was happening is Freon was getting put in, and then the school was great for like 2 or 3 days. And then it was hot as all get out all over again. And so instead of there being an actual accountability and saying, okay, let's not keep saying this person's in charge and this person's in control, there being some actual, something written, something on the book, somebody who's going to hold them accountable. And I have no problem doing that. So I think it's that, obviously working with the, looking at the current systems and what the different counselors on the city side have been doing and what they're looking to do as well. And like really sitting down and having conversations. I feel like there's a lot of, talking across, and this one puts it on this side and this, we need to stop that. As grown adults, we need to be a good example for these young people and say, it is possible to indeed work together to get stuff done. So that's what I'm about.
Well, thank you. And CBA is owns a lot of buildings, and every project that we have, we actually have what we call capital need assessment report. So every 5 years, we actually do a report for next 10 years of work that needs to be done. So we always know what needs to be done, and we always know how much money is needed. So city definitely, needs to look at something like that to make sure that, we're being proactive about, fixing these buildings where, we talk about how important home is for families, but we don't translate that into school building is that important to our students as well. So
and I mean, and the reality of it is, we also, I heard a lot of the counselors talking about homelessness. We don't consider that there are a lot of young people in schools that are homeless. Either they're bouncing around from home to home, or so this is the one place where they feel safe, secure, stable, and it needs to be acceptable. And the teachers don't deserve to be working in buildings that are falling apart or crumbling or have, infestations. Like, it's just not acceptable. And so we can't keep putting it off and saying we should and have a meeting. It just needs to get done.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, we know that the education gap has even gotten wider for low-income children and a lot of children of color. So as a school committee member, what kind of policies do you think school committees can put together to try to close the gap around education for children of color as well as low-income children?
So I think a lot of this really involves the community being involved. We put a lot of emphasis, and this year the school committee did have year-round school. That was an opportunity for some of the skills gaps to be exercised or to be looked at. But I have to say, first and foremost, what we start with is the gaps instead of what the other things that are happening, right? So people go, for me, when I hear gaps, I'm thinking it's almost like an institutionalized, let's go towards, we're not making our mark, so then the money's going to go. Let's really look to see what's going on with the students. What is your home life? What is your experience? What do you need to be successful? It's not just about passing a test. And so as a teacher for 11 years, I know that probably sounds odd because I had to get students to make a certain mark in order to get a paper, but that's not all I did as an educator. And so I think that oftentimes we're missing the mark by just talking about the gap. But as far as what we can do, we should definitely have the parents more involved. One of the things that I want to do is a curriculum development plan. And in that curriculum development plan, which is a lot about also making sure there's more equity in what the students are learning, but I want there to be a pilot that consists of students, teachers, a curriculum development person, somebody that's well-versed in behavioral analysis, somebody who's really well-versed in socio-emotional well-being. All of those people, parents, community members, they need to be involved in looking at how we are teaching the students, because it's not just about, again, I could say have, late night sessions, and I could say have a mentoring program, all of which I believe in. But I feel like we need to sometimes, we don't like to get to the root, because getting to the root means more work. And for me, I'm willing to do that more work.
Thank you. And since Since the superintendent actually started 3 years ago and created chief equity officer position and then department with the bilingual liaisons, as a community organization, I feel like schools have been making so much more effort into connecting with the community and all these new programs and events that the school system actually has been putting on. I'm actually like really excited for all the things and getting the community involved. I'm hoping that all this the school committee candidates that are here, when if you get elected, you do continue all of that, especially that the equity officers department. It's just been so instrumental. And so as someone that knows a lot about DEI work, what additional things would you like to do to even do more of an engagement work in the community?
So one of the things that I had, obviously, so for me, the thing about equity is it's not just race, right? People automatically go to that. And as a Black woman, I go to that, right? So it's definitely something that I think about, and it's my lived experience. But I also think about those young students that have an IEP and they need additional supports and are having a hard time getting those supports. I'm thinking about the children that have social emotional needs, or the children that have different ability levels, whether those are neurodiversity, physical, whatever it may be. So I'm thinking about them and making sure they have all the tools that they need to be successful. One of the kind of the pilot programs, in addition to the curriculum development that I just mentioned, is I have this program in my mind that would take us looking at our current food service, because I will tell you, one of the things that people say over and over again is they hate the food. So that's one of the biggest complaints of students and parents alike. So I have this program called It's Time to Eat. And what that would entail is really taking history. And when I mean history, I mean correct history, and really using food to tie that in as a lesson. So you would have, the food service and the history kind of really come together, develop a curriculum. What would that do? That would make, students know more about, the Cambodian population and what they eat. Why do you eat that? Let me learn about your culture in a way that for some people who are afraid of learning those new things are now introduced to them in a way that's not so scary for them. And then before you know it, you're having additional things like that. So that's one like kind of a small idea that I have, but I think that that's a great way of sneaking that in. But again, I think it's really important to get the parents involved and make sure that they understand that they're experts. They're experts in what their children are experiencing. The children are experts in what they're experiencing and how they want their school to feel. And obviously the teachers need to be supported. There are some fantastic teachers that are overburdened by big class sizes, don't have the tools and the equipment that they need to be successful. And so I want to make sure that they are also heard. And so that's kind of one of the big things. But I do have another program that would be a mentoring program, kind of starting at the younger ages, because I feel like we always focus on the high school age. And by that point, they should have already had a mentor. They should have already had somebody that was kind of pivotal, whether it was bringing in speakers of different backgrounds. And so you could see when I was a teacher in Boston, I brought in the head of the FBI in Boston at the time, who was a Black man. And my student said, "Who is this guy?" And I said, "He's the head of the FBI." And they said, "Well, he's Black." And I said, "I know." And he's the head of the FBI. It was just something they hadn't seen before. So exposure to different things, so you know that there are different opportunities for you.
Well, thank you, Stacey. You have like so many great ideas. You and I would have worked really well together, because I love people with ideas. So thank you. Your time is up. So can you give us about 30 seconds of closing remark?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yunju, for this opportunity. Thank you, Dougherty At Large, for the endorsement. It meant so much to me. I have to say, as a first-time candidate, this process has been so overwhelming and so wonderful all at the same time. I will say today was emotional. My mom voted for me. So that was a huge thing to have your mom be able to vote for you. But I will say, what Vesna said is definitely true. Absolutely need help with visibility, any canvassing. I really hope at this point you've seen me, you've seen the differences between myself and my opponent. One of the things I've heard oftentimes is, "You're both nice." well, that's good. I am a nice person, but I want you to know what I'm going to do. And because it's not for me just about being nice, it's about what I have done, what I'm going to do, and what I've continued to do in the future. So please, I would be honored if you live in District 1, I would be honored to have your vote. If you know of people that are voting or on the borderline, please send them my way. I have no problem having a conversation. And my website is staceyforlowell.com. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Stacey. And next school committee candidate is Susie Chhoun from District 3. I am so sorry, I probably pronounced your last name wrong. So can you pronounce your last name for me?
No, you're absolutely right. Susie Chhoun. Yeah. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
So I have a, so your icebreaker question is, if you had to either eat one dish for the rest of your life or something different every meal, and you had to finish even if you didn't like it. So it could be a liver, it could be, you know, all kinds of things that you may not like. Some people like liver, but what would you choose?
Oh my goodness,
Same
that's a
dish
tough
or
question.
something different, but you have to finish.
I have to, you know, does it have to be favorite or not favorite? Anything at all. Okay,
Anything.
so one of my specialty is pahokti. That's the very traditional, very, you know, something that every Cambodian loves to eat. It's a traditional Cambodian ground pork with coconut milk and some like almost like anchovy. So that's my specialty, and people ask for that. That's the one thing that I think I can eat and not like, you know, I will not get sick of it. So that's the one thing that I love to eat, very authentic Cambodian food.
Thank you. Welcome again. And Susie, so can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running?
Hi, my name is Susie Chhoun. I'm running for District 3 School Committee. That consists of the Belvedere and South Lowell. I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of it. My main reason is that I have a few strong topics as to why I've decided to run, but I didn't decide to run because of, for me, it's because, you know, being an activist and being a community leader, a lot of our Cambodian community and our community members asked me to run for office, and I've been pushing it back. And I think this is a good opportunity, you know, for someone like myself who has been an educator for over 20 years to run for school committee. And, you know, for me being an educator and a parent, I know firsthand how it is to be in a classroom and also to be a parent, to advocate for our children. And, you know, again, you know, one of the main things that I want to focus on is, you know, having encouraging and empowering our families to get more involved, engage with our, you know, engagement with our families and breaking that barrier, such as through language translation. That's one of the main things that I feel like we need to really push hard and work on in order for us to encourage our families and our students to get more involved in our children's education. And, you know, and also when we have, if we want parents to attend all these events or conferences, the other problem that we've come into is that a lot of our families do not work a 9-to-5 job or do not have the flexibilities of having childcare or someone who's readily available to help babysit the kids. So, you know, we need to find something in ways to help accommodate our families as well, you know, through translation, through childcare, and, you know, having a culturally diverse resources, you know, and our other candidates brought a really valid point, having multiple languages being you know, sent out to our families, you know, through via text, or nowadays, I think more parents are more susceptible to respond to text messages rather than, you know, emails or phone calls. Because like myself, as a parent, when I'm seeing phone calls from my kid's school, I think, oh, there's something going on. I don't see it as, okay, this is a message that I need to listen to or answer to. So that's one of the things that I know that we need to get, you know, get really tough on, not, you know, not in a negative way, but we just need to collaborate on that. And the other thing that I feel like we need to focus on as well is build a school that reflect, you know, our community, you know, and having a more inclusive teaching staff and more inclusive, diverse faculty in our schools. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Lowell school system right now are doing a really good job. And Latifah is she's amazing. She's part of that, where, the hiring process of hiring diverse and equity, and, getting all the other faculty and members to work in our school system. I think she's doing a tremendous job. And I cannot stress enough of that. However, we need to push more. As someone, if and when elected as school committee, I would love to work with other members to make sure we hire faculties and staff that reflect our students in our school, And again, for me, it's like, I want to see, as a parent, and I would be more comfortable speaking to a teacher or a staff member who can actually relate to me as a female, as a mom, as a single mom, and also not just that, as a Cambodian or some person of color. That's what I want to see as well in our school. And when our kids feel empowered by the diverse staff in our school, they would be more open to, and they feel more related, they're relatable. And another thing is, one of my other top priorities, I want to make sure that we hire enough staff in our school, teachers and students. We do not have enough staff to really, teachers, especially now post-COVID, are overwhelmed by the numbers of students that are enrolled. We do not have enough staff to teach our kids. And I can tell you firsthand, being in the classroom, it is overwhelming. And, we have to factor in, we have to deal with students with social and emotional issues post-COVID, and even before COVID, students are dealing with that. And, just feeling that, that's just very overwhelming. And that's something that I also wanted to see, is like, we want to make sure that we have enough teaching staff to benefit. And when teachers are overwhelmed and we are overflow with students, not enough staff, our kids, our students that needed teachers the most, do not get sufficient, one-on-one or hands-on education. They will not become successful in their education career, and we want to see that. As an educator, we want to see our kids become successful. And, it's just that's something that I would like to advocate for as well. And one of the most important thing is, making sure that our school are safe. When I say safe, that's the one thing that I know this is going to come up, but I know that one of the things that making sure that we are centered, our programs, anti-bullying. That's the one thing that it's been going on since myself growing up, but it wasn't sensationalized with the media because we didn't have social media back then. But now it's more out there. And one thing that TikTok is one thing, it's a hate or a love relationship, where I think that we need to really focus on that. There's got to be some kind of filter with that. And, making sure that, we're dealing with anti-bullying. That's the one top priority I really want to focus on. And also, having enough programs, hiring enough staff that really help, advocate, help, sustain, help our children, especially with social and emotional issues. That's the one thing I really, really am very passionate, because I see firsthand how hard it is for our little ones, not even our little ones. Again, I've had conversation with other teachers that are in, middle school, high school. They see across board how difficult it is with our children now, after a year and a half out of, in a classroom setting, coming back, they're dealing with that. Are we having enough, staff who, like social workers, who deal with this and they're educated in this? Do we have that in our school to help, focus on our children that need that the most? And when one child start acting up in a classroom, then it's a domino effect. When, one child, we have to deal with, someone who has an emotional issue. How are we going to teach the other students that are there, are ready to learn? So those are my main components, where that's what I've decided to run. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And so you talked a little bit about, some of these, some of it is a COVID, but there has been, behavioral issues at the high schools, and there has been some fights and some things. So can you talk a little bit about what your thoughts are around SROs for our audiences? That's school resource officers in schools.
Thank you. That's a wonderful question. I have good friends who are police officer. They have to their job is tough. They have to deal with, people from different emotional background, and I respect them for doing such an amazing job. And I cannot stress enough. I myself once wanted to become a police officer. I took the test to become a police officer, but unfortunately, I'm a lot older than a lot of the other candidates then. But however, I respect them for that. But again, respectfully, I don't believe that we should have a resource, some SRO in our school, because, for me, again, I personally experienced myself, positive and negative. I've been through both that, I respect police officers. Again, I volunteer with the Lowell police officer every year with the barbecue and everything. But, from a background, you have to imagine of the other students that did not have the luxury of having positive exposure to police officers. How are they dealing with it socially and emotionally? That's the key. Those are the key words that I want to emphasize, is that how are they going to deal with it? And again, it's not that they have anxiety or anything, but you have to realize, put yourself in their position as what are some, remember, we're in the city of Lowell. Lowell is a very mixed, very diverse, but we are a city. We are a city where you have to deal with children from the Acre, the Belvedere, again, we don't know their situation. We don't know their backgrounds. We don't know what their situation may be. They come to school smiling, but we don't know what's inside, what they have to deal with. And a lot of our candidates brought a lot about the homelessness and, the things that we deal with. Is like, okay, emotionally, what are they dealing with from their home? They're bringing a package, and a lot of our students cannot express themselves like us adult, because, they'll, again, that social and emotional, they will lash out in ways, and we think this kid is bad. I don't like to use the term bad, but we see it that way. But again, going back to SRO, some of our kids may experience, their parents, have bad experience with the police officer because of some situation that may happen in the family. So that's the reason I respect police officers. I love what they do, but I do not see that in our school. Even when we have the situation that happened recently in our high school and in Lawrence, but I still feel that we do not need it, because again, when my two daughters were in high school, we have security guard in our school. And when I was in high school, we have security guard. They're there. They're also almost like a representation of police officer. I know they're not trained in the sense as a police officer, but at least once they build a good relationship with our students, they will more likely to respect the authority. That's the one thing that I want to emphasize as well. Build that relationship with our students, because when they see you, that you're just as normal and as human. And, when we build that strong relationship, our kids, they would do anything for you. And again, I respect police officers, and I respect what they do on a daily basis. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your answer. So your time is up. So
Oh, sorry. Wow.
So I know it goes by very fast. So can you make your 30-second summary of your parting remarks?
Yes, please. If you live in District 3, please, I ask for your vote for November 2nd or now, because we have early voting. Thank goodness for that. Also, if you want to reach out to our team, susieforlowellschools.com. And again, November 2nd, please vote for Susie Chhoun. And I will be the voice, and I will be that change. And we want to see a different perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie. So our next person is Jackie Doherty. She's running for at large seat. So welcome, Jackie.
I'm going to turn some lights on. Is that better?
Yes.
Good evening. It's great to see you all.
Nice to see you. And I have an icebreaker question for you.
Okay.
So we have a very diverse group of people on this square right now. So if you were inviting all of us to your house for dinner, what would the menu look like?
Oh, I would love a potluck. And everybody brings their favorite dish. I want to try Susie's favorite dish. And even your other icebreaker about I realized I had a certain theme in all the ways I would have answered your icebreaker questions. Like if I could pick a superpower, I've always wished I could fly because I want that perspective, the different perspective. So, and I think that is one of our strengths as a city, as we have such diversity, and that for me, that my children graduated from the coolest high school in the world, Lowell High, and those graduations are like the United Nations, looking out on that sea of faces. And I just really truly see our diversity as a strength, and the idea of different perspectives, whether you're younger, more experienced, different ethnic backgrounds, all those things add a richness and a flavor to our discussions, and I think make us a better community as long as we all have a seat at the table and we're listening to each other.
So Jackie, you've been a school committee member for a while, you probably don't need a introduction, but can you share a little bit about yourself and why you're running?
Yes, so I'm going to go back to why I ran in the first place, and I'm serving my 14th year. There was a gap of about 4 years in between that, but what prompted me in the beginning is the same as what's prompting me today to put my hat in the ring. And I think I would start by saying we are a family that lives our values, both myself and my husband. We've been the E's. I've been focused on education. He's been focused on the environment. And when we moved to Lowell 28 years ago, we bought a boarded down, abandoned house on Tyler Park in the Highlands. And it's been a labor of love. 27 years of doing the gardening and fixing up the house, most of it our own sweat equity. My husband's an architect. He loves historic buildings. He loves bringing a building back, but also making it sustainable. He started a group called the Friends of Tyler Park that's still running. So a year ago, after 27 years of investing in our home and in the community, both in our neighborhood in the Highlands, for me, it started out with the schools when my son, who's now 28, entered preschool. I immediately became a volunteer. I have over 11 years of experience as a college educator. I was an adjunct teacher at UMass Lowell, Amherst, and then, UMass Lowell and Daniel Webster College, sorry, not Amherst. While my children moved through the public schools, I was a volunteer in the classroom, and after school, I did writing workshops. Because my master's degree is in creative writing, I'm a communicator by training, which I think has been very helpful in this role, being able to, talk about what's important and what we need to do as a community. So right from the beginning, I ran because I saw from 5 years of leadership on the citywide parent council that families across the district were struggling with similar challenges for their students. And one thing that really, it was like an epiphany for me. One day I was thinking, my 2 kids are going to be fine because they have college educated, outspoken, English speaking American parents, right? I wasn't afraid to speak up or speak out to my school principal if things were not happening that needed to be. But who was going to speak for all those other children? The children whose parents maybe didn't feel comfortable at the school or maybe had a language barrier. And that, plus my belief that we are all in this together, that we only rise as a community when we all rise together. That if people are left behind, those people impact us. We can't leave anybody behind. We have to, so I can't think of the term, and I have to tell you, today's my birthday, and I've kind of been celebrating all weekend.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So I'm not feeling at my strongest, in terms of acuity, but I do feel very passionate about this work. So that makes it easy for me to be excited about it. So that was why I got into it from the beginning. It was always about how do we make the schools better for each and every student. And I think the prior school committee candidates, and I love you both. I wish I could vote for you. I definitely want us all to be working together for many of these issues. But this idea of what would I want if that student were my son or my daughter? That's how I look at the decisions and the information we're faced with. It's got to come down for the students. And it means meeting the students where they are, where their needs are, and where their challenges are. If for a homeless student, that's going to be very different from a student who's lives in Belvedere and parents are both college educated, English speaking, and or for a student with special needs, or a student who gets excited about theater or sports. Like, we need to have the programs and the services that are going to engage our students. And I have to tell you, we have made some progress in the last 2 years on things that really matter to me about the diversity of hiring. And we have seen some real movement in that, about empowering families with our school site council. We have also seen unprecedented losses in student services, the Family Resource Center responding to parents, just picking up the phone. And I think some of that has been the pandemic, and some of that has been just, we've got to do a better job. So I do see myself as someone who shares a lot of the values of the people here. But I also feel very strongly, and Stacey, thank you so much for saying that, about not being afraid to hold people accountable. And I would also extend that to the city, that when we're looking at how we spend this money, and let's ballpark it, the city's got 70 something, we've got 30 something, it's more than that, right? ARPA, ESSER, it comes with restrictions about how we can use it. But I am going to be asking the city, put up your fair share to maintain these buildings. We've already earmarked over $14 million of our 30 something and for buildings that we, the city owns the buildings, but we recognize we have to work together. So I would ask all these counselor candidates that, think about that. When you're looking at how to spend the money, there's a lot of need, way more than 70 million is going to cover. But I would really be looking for the city to help take care of the buildings, because having safe environments in terms of heat that works in the winter, windows that open screens it's kind of like a bottom line thing. And we got to move from there. Sorry. I'll take it.
So I do have a one follow-up question, Jackie. So you talked about, the reason why you were running was because you wanted to be the voice. So what do you, how do you think community members, especially low income and, people with like language barriers, actually communicate the need of their children to the school committee members? I know you get a lot of phone calls from, some parents, but there are a lot of group of people who you may not, know, or people who may not know you. And so how would you gather that information?
That's a very important question, because you're right. And I do pride myself on listening and responding. There was a period I wasn't getting my emails, but if any email I get from, if it's a student, a parent, a staff member, I try to respond to it. I look into it, phone calls, texts, because that's one of the ways we get our information. But I know I'm not hearing from a huge percentage of our population. So when I hear, I'll get a phone call from someone struggling to speak to me in English, almost in tears because no one has called her back. She's calling and calling or emailing. And I know that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the family needs out there. So I really try to amplify the voices I do hear and bring those concerns to the table. That is something that all of us will have, whether we're school committee or city council candidates, is you have that voice, you have that moment in front of the people that we hire to run the city and run the schools, to get to bridge those concerns. So there has been a lack of that. I said in the chat earlier, we have that Connect Ed program that we can communicate out to parents. And I know the administration has done a lot of these webinars and they do offer translation, but that's very much one-way communication. So the two-way communication, really the investment we've made is the bilingual parent liaisons, the Family Resource Center, that every school have a welcoming environment with somebody who can help translate with those parents, but making sure that that's happening effectively. It's an important piece of it, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is why I'm hearing from, our community members, like that bilingual liaisons has been instrumental in last few years. because they feel like they can communicate with, the schools. So, and I know school has implemented a lot of different, ways to communicate in different languages. And so I do really applaud the school committee and the school system for doing that. Those are actually things that our city government is still lacking. And so compared to city, government, school is way ahead in, communicating in different languages. And, the school system actually has much better system right now. So thank you for that. Unfortunately, your time is up. I know it was very quick, 10 minutes. So thank you. And you have 30 seconds before you go. Or actually, we have some question and answers after.
I want to say that it has been an honor to serve my community this way, that I can look back over 28 years in Lowell and know that I've worked hard to contribute and make my city and my schools better. And I have appreciated that privilege, and I would ask for your continued support for me to continue to do this work. I also want to thank Solidarity Lowell, because it is people like you and the work that you put in that are helping us to move into the direction so we can really be the city that our best city. So thank you, Jackie Doherty At Large. And I would again throw out, I support Stacey, Susie. I would also like to say my colleague, Connie Martin, who's also running at large. I think that she also has been a very strong supporter of a lot of these values, and I would love to see her stay on the committee as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. And we have Solidarity Lowell has one other candidate that they endorsed who wasn't able to attend tonight. That's Hilary Clark from District 2. So I just want to mention her name because she's been endorsed by Solidarity Lowell. So so the next part, we have about 15 minutes for some more question and answers. I know there's been some questions that's been put on the chat that we haven't been able to ask all the candidates. So we're going to open up question and answers to answer some of those questions. So I know there was a question someone wanted to know about the election of mayor to all the school committee, city council candidates. And I know some of you have answered that question. So so those of you that haven't, we would like to hear from you as well. So Wayne, I don't think you've actually had a chance to talk about that issue.
Hi, no, I have not. So where I currently stand on this is that the consent decree that formed this current election system said that we can't change anything for 2 elections, this one and the next one. So I think it's premature to even be debating this, but and to just say the people elect the mayor, I think it sounds great and I would love to do that, but it's not enough detail for me to just say that, because I've heard several different proposals of, oh, well, everybody running for council could run for school committee and they just have to put their name forward. That would mean we could have up to 22 people on a November ballot saying they want to run for mayor, and we could elect a mayor with 6% of the vote. I've also heard, oh, well, you should have to run at large to be the mayor. And I feel like requiring someone to run at large to be the mayor kind of pushes the needle back closer to where we were before the consent decree, right? It's, there are a lot of communities and people who felt their voices weren't being heard. So we went to this district-based hybrid system to have those voices included. Now, if you're saying that people who run for a minority seat can't become mayor, I think that's pushing things in the wrong direction. And I also worry about what it does for the school committee, because remember, the mayor sits on the school committee. So if we're just doing an at-large election for mayor, I imagine that election will probably look pretty similar to all the at-large city council elections we've done in years past. And so that it's going to be the same neighborhoods that controlled the situation to begin with, that caused this lawsuit to come into effect, that are then going to control the mayor's seat. on the city council and in the school committee. So I think there's a lot of landmines here, and unfortunately, I really feel like that ballot question does not have enough detail as to where we would go. So to just say the people elect the mayor, I feel like is this open-ended question that I don't know what it means. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. And Justin?
Hello. Yeah, Wayne actually brought up a great point of the whole election system and what that means for the what that means for mayorship. But as far as where I stand on it, I believe that the city should have a say in whether or not they decide they want to vote on the mayor or not. And I think it's as simple as that. And then as we go forward and look at what the system's going to be, I can't say right now what I would want that system to be. I think it's going to take a little more discussion and talking on if it's going to be a strong mayor or the current status as it is. I don't know, but I do know that the people should have a say in where we go forward. And that's where I'll look to for my decision making. So thank you.
Thank you. I believe Vesna and Tooch already answered that question. We have a question for the school committee members from Latoya. So recently, Mike Dillon stated that we don't need stats on diversity on school staff because of application. There's a word equal opportunity employer. Yet school has actually less than 10% of staff who are people of color. So I would like to hear from the candidates and incumbent your thoughts on that. And so we're going to limit your answers to 30 seconds. So Jackie, would you like to go since you sit in the council with Mike?
Yes, I'll go very quickly. I think that that's hogwash. I mean, Mike's not really aware. He doesn't admit that there is such a thing as an implicit bias, and he doesn't have it. So we have made progress, but there's more to it than just getting the numbers up. It has to do with a culturally supportive and environment for those staff and inclusive curriculum, which is a motion that I recently had. So I think that there's a lot of work that goes along with that and that we absolutely have to stay the course. But I would love to hear from the other challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie? 30 seconds.
Sorry, having some tech issue. What was the question? I'm sorry.
So Mike Dillon and recently said people don't need to put diversity information because our application says we're an equal opportunity employer. So what are your thoughts on that?
For me, I like data driven. I like to see, as a parent, I would like to see data. I would like to see things that are in place and, set for us to see, as a parent. I want to see that. I do not want to see things that are just being laid out just to just committee members, but I want, as a parent, I want to see data. I want data driven is very important to me. So yes, thank you.
Thank you. Stacey?
So quite simply, numbers don't lie, and you can talk all around circles about things if you would like to, but the numbers are there, the statistics are there, and you can't like numbers when it suits your purpose and then not like numbers when it doesn't. So quite frankly, the numbers are there. There's a serious lack of diversity. And again, I don't really like using the word diversity because it just means many. There's a lack of equity, and it's abundantly clear. And I don't care if you put an EOE, slap that name on it and try to call that a hiring practice. It needs to be looked at. And we gave you the stats so that you would actually put credibility behind what needs to be done.
Thank you. The next question is for city councilors. So with the city push for urban agriculture in the city, including allowing to keep chickens and small livestock, this is more of a yes or no question. So Vesna? Tooch? Justin?
Let's ask that question again, please.
So would you support urban agriculture in the city and allow people to keep chickens and small livestock?
Well, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't know much about it, so I'd have to look into that situation to give you a clear answer. So sorry. I will look into
Wayne?
it.
Thank you. Wayne?
Hi there. Similar to Justin, I don't know a ton about this issue except what I remember about the backyard chickens debate from a few years ago, and it getting very passionate. So I would love to have more conversations about it because it's just not something that's been in my wheelhouse yet. But if it's something that's going to help the city be more equitable, I'd be open to having those discussions. Thank you.
And I'm not sure if Tooch and Vesna are having some tech issues. So a lot of us like to eat fresh eggs. They're very, very delicious. So I would support it. My sister, actually, who lives up in Maine, brings me fresh eggs, and they are so delicious. Chris, I don't know if there's any other big questions that I'm missing. I'm sorry.
Let me take a quick look.
Sure, sorry.
Yes. This one about the plans or ideas for improving LRTA bus service.
So if any of the city council candidates want to maybe very quickly talk about, what plans that they may be able to suggest for LRTA.
Hi, I'll jump in a little bit there. So LRTA is not city controlled as part of the issue. LRTA is a regional transit authority and is empowered by the state legislature. So they're a partner for us, but we don't have direct control over it. But I would want to see the city work closer with the board, and I would want to see their board be more responsive to the city's requests. Having good convenient public transit that is accessible, usable, is so important to everything else we want to do as a city. It is something I would like to see us put more energy towards. And unfortunately, I don't think the city council has got all the levers to pull, but I'm ready to push and be whiny and stomp my feet to try and improve service. One thing I think they really got to improve is the ability to get information in other languages. Right now, the LRTA site is only in English. And if you don't speak or read English as your primary language, the LRTA is probably pretty close to it, completely inaccessible for you. And that is just not acceptable for a city of our size and our diversity. So that is something I want to see changed and I want to see focused on. Thank you.
If any, does anyone else have anything to add? Justin?
Yeah, so what Wayne said was pretty spot on. But also I believe that the city is building a pathway for a faster route from the LRTA to downtown. So that will help alleviate some of the stress. And I believe some of the problems coming with transportation right now is bus drivers availability. And right now we just don't have them. And we have National Guard members coming in working on that front, and I don't know how long that's going to be sustainable. So transportation is definitely a big issue, and I don't think we're the only city that's seeing this issue. So it's going to take a lot of work, and it's not going to be just done at the city level. This is going to take partnership with higher level and our state officials. So it's going to definitely take a lot of work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so there are about 250 homeless people in the city of Lowell. So I went to a task force meeting, so I know this number. And city is working with a lot of organizations to house people, especially for the winter. There are going to be about 25 chronic homeless people who's not going to take any housing, even if they were offered housing. So for most part, all the homeless people will have some type of place to sleep, the ones that want to, be housed. But we still see a lot of homeless people in downtown area, and that people see that as a big issue. So if you get elected as a city councilor, what could you do about the people in downtown?
I'm gonna jump in front of this one if that's okay, since I'm running for District 4, which is, encompasses downtown. So I think the city's housing first and direction that was adopted in 2019 is the way to go. It's all about funding, right? And there's so much we have to do. We have to have people getting into the homeless camps and working with these folks who are experiencing homelessness as frequently as possible. There are a significant amount who don't want housing or don't want to go into shelter. We got to address those issues. I think the shelter needs to be better managed, hopefully with some kind of local management. Having out of town management is just not working. So that needs to happen. I'm going to put an article in the chat that I invite everyone to read. It's something that the Houston Chronicle did, comparing housing first approaches that both Houston and San Diego took. Houston took the time to build a comprehensive system, and in doing so managed to reduce their homelessness situation by about 50%. San Diego also tried to adopt a housing first initiative, but they did not do it the same way that Houston did. They did it more piecemeal. They were only able to house about 18% of their unhoused population. So I think it's really important to not just say housing first, but to know what that means and know how to do that effectively. Excuse my cat. This is Olive. Say hi, Olive. Thank you. It's about building a complete system, and it's not just housing, it's housing first. You need to have all the services around housing that allow people to resolve whatever issues that cause them to begin experiencing homelessness in the first place. If you don't address those root causes, you're never ever going to make a difference. So I think that's what's really important. We need to build a comprehensive network that includes our state and federal partners, our nonprofits, and everyone else in the city who just wants to help here. Thank you.
Justin, do you have anything to add, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a lot of what Wayne was saying, he's spot on. Like, we need to just start addressing the issue. We need to talk. Like I said before, we need to talk to the people that are homeless, understand the conditions that have gotten them in that place, and that's when we can start addressing the situation and working on it. We're going to have to work with, like he said, we have to work with nonprofits, we have to work with state legislators, because homelessness is a problem for the entire state and not just this city. But for our city, we need to make sure we take a serious approach to it and start talking to them and understanding. And that's the whole game. That's the whole game as a person. You should be able to understand people and what they're going through and put yourself in their shoes. And once you do that, a lot of things get much better. It's just about putting yourself in their shoes. We all have different experiences. We all come from different backgrounds, and nobody, even being a twin myself, I can say this, an identical twin, nobody has the same experience. Not one bit. And that caused a lot of fights with me and my brother. But that's the thing. We see things differently. It doesn't matter where you come from, but all of our life experience does project what we see in the world. So that's important.
Thank you so much, Justin. I know this is an important issue for you as well. So thank you.
Yes.
So it's 7:01 now. So I think this, I would like to actually send it over to Joe Boyle to conclude and close out this event.
Okay, thank you, Yeonju. And thank you, everybody, for coming. This has been fantastic. I wanted to invite everybody, all of the participants, all of the attendees, to please get involved with the campaigns of these candidates. It's crunch time before the election. They're all looking for people for help canvassing. Some of them might be doing text banks. Some of them might be doing phone banks. Please, I invite you to look up the ones you like and get involved with their campaigns. And I'm going to invite all of the candidates to please post your contact information in the chat so that you can, for people who look to volunteer. We want our candidates to come out of this event pleased with their experience with Solidarity Lowell. So the more hours, the more people we can have out there helping our candidates get elected. Not only is it good for Lowell, not only is it good for us, but to have the right candidates on there, but it's a way to let them know that our support is something that comes with some real benefits for the candidates. I've been out there for a couple of these candidates. I hope everybody else will too. Thank you all for coming, and you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.
Don't forget to vote.
Bye, thank
We're
you.
super voters here.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. If anyone hasn't heard, early voting has started. So now that you're all excited about these candidates, early voting is every day at the senior center, and then there's it's rotating in the evenings. Look on the City of Lowell's website to find convenient voting locations. Get out there, help the candidates, vote for your candidates, and let's help make them a little better place. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.